The gigawatts are going to be the giga get of the giga future, of the giga win of this giga cycle. Don't have enough infra. Doesn't matter what your models do today. Someone will outdo you tomorrow.
I mean, Daniel, you forgot about the giga chads, which we're very disappointed about.
Founder and CEO of More Insights and Strategy, Patrick Moorhead.
6, 5.
CEO of the Futurum Group,
Daniel Newman.
6, 5.
Do we know what we're talking about, Moorhead?
We absolutely know what we're talking about. Love watching that intro.
Well, you do? You love that one?
I love watching it because
you only love that one. You only love that one because you shifted from the original. I think we know what we're talking about too. Of course, we know what we're talking about. Remember that? Remember that for the longest time, that intro was, I think we know. And I said, isn't that a little, under valuing how smart you are, Moorhead? You of course know what you're talking about.
It's not about I. There's no I and we. There's no I in team, Daniel.
Yeah, but there is a me, an Evan and E. There is a me in team.
Right.
So don't forget that. Well, we're back. It's episode 293. You know, it's funny, like you start to get to these numbers and every week you feel like you're not going up a number anymore. Like in the beginning, you felt like you were really making strides. It's like, when you just on to, it was like, no, it was 292. Well, this is episode 293, Pat. So don't anyone out there say we are not committed. We are committed and we are running fast. But, you know, Pat, for the first time in a long time, I did not get on an airplane this week. I did not go anywhere. It was nice.
Same, buddy.
Yeah, it was really nice.
2 weeks.
Won't be able to say that again next week, sadly. But
Same.
Off we go. But a lot going on. A lot of stuff happening. Fundraises, deals being made, hands not being held in Black Panther power moments from Sam Altman and Dario Amodi, where they wouldn't hold hands, but they just raised their fists in, you could call it non-unity. I know it's crazy, but thank God AI fixed it. You know, there's so many great uses of AI that applied that to creating fight scenes and hugging scenes. And by the way, what a spiral of just brain rot. What an absolute spiral of brain rot. I hope you're all enjoying the brain rot as much as I am. My IQ dropped 2 points this week. But, rumors out there, nonsense that you and I are out there dispelling. No, 14A did not get delayed a year. Sorry, everybody. But a lot going on, Pat. So, I guess before I jump in, just got to ask you, did you get the biceps bigger this week? I mean, you looking kind of jacked today. Did you the week back in the saddle? You feeling good?
Yeah, I feel great. 2 weeks not on the road. My HRV's at a 2-week high. Amazing. My Oura ring is telling me that I'm almost back to essentially completely back after 2
recharged, restored.
Yeah, but I've got a new malady I'm dealing with right now. This massive sinus infection. Apparently, I've had for like years. Trying to deal with that, and but you know what? Got to move forward. So I'm pumping steroids. No, not those type, and antibiotics. Yeah, the control room is probably gonna have to delete the steroid part, or we're not going to get any views. But
why? You're not allowed to talk about pumping steroids on the show?
Not when they're prednisolone. Yeah, methylprednisolone. So not the real ones.
That's too bad. I want to know when you're blasting trend.
Yeah. No, well, we might have to do a sideshow, just talking trend talk.
Yeah, if you guys think it would be fun, maybe Pat and I shoot one of these while working out. That'd be fun.
That'd be good. Listen, I saw,
was it Robert Kennedy and Ken Rock?
Kennedy kind of doing their thing, and maybe instead of just posting text in our workouts and AI modified gym pictures, we do a video.
Wait, you've been AI modifying yours?
Yeah, my arms are like half that size.
Wow.
You kidding?
No, mine. I actually make everything smaller just to, I don't brag.
Because people ask you if you actually work out on your legs.
I don't. No, there's no point.
Yeah.
All right, man, that's enough. Now you've crossed the line. You and I'm challenging you to a leg day. We're gonna do a leg day here.
Tell you what, we're going to do it, and given the length of the legs is going to be my my handicap.
I don't want to hear any of these excuses. No pre-excuses. You can go ahead and chime in here, folks, if you agree. No pre-excuses on the workout challenge. All right, buddy. You know the format, everyone. We break the decode. We hit the top stories of the week. Then we'll go into the flip where I win an argument, simulated argument. And then we're going to hit the markets, the bulls and the bears. We're going to talk about what's going on in the markets. And then we're going to get everybody on their way. So, Pat, I don't know, without further ado, but let's hit the decode. All right. It was a media tour week for me. I don't know about you, but Meta made an announcement of a new deal with NVIDIA. Pat, what happened?
Really thought about this one. I think I did 3 press interviews trying to decode what the heck this thing was. But let me give you the news first. So Meta and NVIDIA confirmed a long-term infrastructure partnership across Spectrum X, GPUs, confidential computing, Vera Rubin clusters. NVIDIA used the word millions of Blackwell and Rubin GPUs plus Grace CPUs and Vera for deployment in 2027. Meta did not use the millions stuff that I thought was interesting. Having done a lot of these large company deals and stuff like that, it is hard to see if why there was a difference here. But let's get into, so why did we even do this announcement, right? I think first and foremost, it helps tame this Meta going to TPU and Google Cloud story. And I just remind everybody, every single hyperscaler is looking at every single chip option and also overflow capacity model overflow capacity data center when they because nobody has enough. And I think what happened is Jensen came in, gave a good package deal that's not just chips plus capacity and one of its outlet partners. I don't know if it's CoreWeave or who it is. It doesn't matter at this point. And I also think it helped NVIDIA score some points on the CPU narrative that very quickly in 2 or 3 months, it's cool to be CPU with AI. A lot of this is driven by reinforcement learning. Also, if you look at in an agentic workflow, that agentic orchestrator spawning subagents and doing most of the controlling, a lot of that is done by a CPU. So, and I think finally, kind of interesting fodder to bring out before GTC. And I think also, throw a little bit of a hand grenade into, well, what does this mean for AMD, if anything? What does this mean for Intel, if anything, and any other company that may or may not be bringing out an ARM-based data center CPU in the next 6 months?
Yeah, I think it's a big number. We keep talking about that huge capex commit, and NVIDIA is going to get the outsized amount. Meta's building an absolute compute factory. It's investing big. It's going to continue to invest big. A lot of dumb takes about this being a zero-sum thing. A lot of people really hammered on AMD specifically about this one. I just don't think it's that specific. I think Meta knows it needs a lot of compute, and it's going to want as much as it can get from NVIDIA, and it's still going to buy AMD as well. I think this news might have been one of the kind of quiet, you kind of mentioned this, the sort of quiet winners was ARM. Clearly, with Manus acquisition and what Meta is doing with agents, you're seeing the rise of CPU. You're seeing NVIDIA, and Meta talking about leaning into more CPU, which of course is going to primarily be Grace and Vera. And it's going to be a huge beneficiary for ARM. So, this is another one of these big deals, but not a lot of specifics around it, Pat. But if it's millions of GPUs, it's many, many, many billions of dollars. And so you do the math. I like counting. You like counting. We like counting. So the math's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, what, a million GPUs? Let's just throw a number out there: 35,000 per, right? That's a big number. Some people might even say 50,000 per.
Yeah, or you do what is it, 72 per rack? You could break the million into how many racks, and something like 4 or 5 million a rack. There's a couple different ways you can math it. And that, of course, uh, the million might not even be enough to cover it. Millions, millions,
Yeah.
with a Z. All right. So that's that. But while we're out, spending, another company that keeps spending big is Microsoft. I don't know. I kind of teased in the beginning of the show, the India summit. You had all the big CEOs on stage, all in unity, holding hands, except for the two big model guys. We'll debate models later, though. But Satya Nadella I think he committed about 17 billion last year to India, and they talked about having something like a 50 billion global South AI push. What's the global South? These are basically developing nations, Southern Hemisphere, um, where they plan to spend more. This is where they're going to expand their AI and cloud infrastructure. They're going to go after these emerging markets. You know, Pat, I think it's opportunistic. I think one is there's probably going to be some meaningful sort of tax and benefits for these investments going into these regions. I think when you look at like in India, it's a region that's going to have to figure out its pivot because it's grown on these kind of BPOs, these BPOs, and the BPOs are not going to need as many people in the AI era. But all these people that became talent, they became coders and engineers and developers and systems and project managers, and did this all over in that region. A lot of smart, capable people that are going to pivot into AI research. They're going to pivot into infrastructure deployment. They could become data center support. So I think this is going to be a good region with talent, and I think talent's going to matter. AI will not replace all jobs, despite my own panic at times. Just because I think it could replace me. Um, this is where you're supposed to tell me I'm irreplaceable, everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think this is an opportunity to capture growth. And again, the AI train is not going to leave all stations at the same time. So investing in these other regions is going to create growth opportunities for Microsoft and others to play in these emerging markets.
So Daniel, this really hits a huge topic, and one of the big topics that is being discussed all around the world, which is sovereign AI, right? And this really got a head of steam when the new administration came in, and even the prior administration. There was an incident where Microsoft had cut off access to a certain country, and we were trying to get data from them. And so what happened is obviously countries got concerned, and they certainly didn't want to build AI that they didn't feel that they could control. Meaning, hey, you can't unplug us. Our data is going to be sovereign and stay in one place. So this whole concept of sovereign AI, and I spent a bunch of time in the UAE, and that was one of the biggest topics out there. They're trying to be the sovereign cloud, and the UAE with G42 even has this moniker of a digital embassy, using Microsoft technology to really dial in and kind of have your cake and eat it too. But India is just the next run for Microsoft, right? Microsoft made a 15 billion dollar investment, and that's not over 10 years in the UAE, and now they're making a looks like a 4-year $50 billion by 2030 investments out there. And hats off to Microsoft for kind of getting ahead of the game here, because they could potentially be at risk, right? And what this does is it potentially circumvents, I'll call local heroes from popping up like you've seen in Western Europe that compete with the Microsofts and the AWSs out there.
So let's move on to California. While they're busy, you know, sending their wealthiest and most capable creators out of the state, they're also continuing to want to launch more oversight. There's an investigation ongoing into Zuck, but there's another one with an AI oversight accountability program focused on XAI and Grok. What's going on there, Pat?
Yes. So I will first say that kind of what XAI did with the, put this person in a bikini. needed to be wrangled in a lot sooner. But California is using it to leverage and create these small, what could become 50 small islands of AI that make the United States as hard to do business with as in Europe. It's just the other way around, where the EU is the one making all these onerous mandates, and literally not a single, well, maybe there's two single VCs and AI companies that want to be in the region. They're all here in the United States and in China and over in the UAE. So this, I understand, they're using something that I think everybody can agree with, which is, what XAI did with the images, to really, but if it sets precedents, I think the amount of growth, the amount of investment, won't just happen in California because California does it, then New York's going to want to do it, then New Jersey's going to want to do it. I mean, a lot of the coastal states will want to map it. Now, some of them will copy exactly what California does, but I think as we've seen over time, what happens, it would be like having completely different rules for the highways. You need different tires, you need different engines, you need different gasoline. Like I couldn't fuel up in Nevada and drive into California. I would have to buy California gas. That would just be completely onerous and completely ridiculous, and would be completely inefficient and bad for AI, and quite frankly, bad for society, because we have to slow down AI for good, for healthcare, for education, for poverty, for what ails this world first and foremost. I'm not saying that AI should, move forward with reckless abandon. I don't think, but I don't think having a state by state rules for this at this point is a smart thing.
Yeah, I mean, California is not the bellwether, but it's influential. I don't know that what California does can be looked at as what the rest of the country will do, but California wants to send a signal, and you've got tough politicians that want to stand up. This is tough, though, because this kind of patchwork state level is going to slow down, especially if we really do believe we're in an AI arms race with China. China's got a top-down mandate, and it's all in. We start adding these frameworks, slow ourselves down, it will materially impact the US's ability to lead in AI. So at the same time, like I don't want to trivialize like things that are being done with AI that shouldn't be. And we need to have some sort of policy for that. I'm worried about everything from, how to authenticity. You've got tons of cyber risk created that needs to be managed and monitored. You've got nuisance. Like, think about as AI enables robo calling even farther, what, God, how bad text and voice can become. There are things that have to be dealt with. We can't just ignore all of this in the spirit of, but gosh, if every state tries to do it, or many of them try to do this, it could get ugly. It's get really slow and ugly. So I guess we'll see. What else could make it slow and ugly though, Pat? If we don't have enough memory to build the infrastructure that we're committing to, as we try to bring 80 plus gigawatts online, every year it's been something. We had the GPU shortages, we've got packaging shortages, and I mean, 26 is the year of memory. You've seen companies like SanDisk and Micron absolutely rocket. I mean, who would have thunk SanDisk? Who would have thunk that Intel should have kept its Optane business and would have actually done well? But Pat, there really does seem to be no relief in sight. I've had conversations, as I'm sure you have, with the CEOs of Micron, of Intel, of smaller semi companies, and everyone seems to agree that there's really no relief in sight till 28, 29. You've got some pretty big shovels in the ground to try to build out more capacity. And of course, the memory crisis is really not only going to hit AI, which can seem to afford it. Like AI can seem to, these companies that are buying it can afford to pay more and have some margin erosion, but it's going to really hurt the consumer in some ways, because when all of a sudden the memory we need for our laptops and PCs and smartphones, I mean, let's make no mistake, like that's where the impact is going to start to hit, and that's going to start to hit inflation and the consumer. But yeah, I mean, it looks like the reallocations are going towards data center, going towards HBM. And it's gonna have a whole cascading effect. These are wild times, but the shortage here is very real. And I mean, I'm hearing 28 relief, but realistically, that's if projects go perfectly. We could have 29. We could be into 30. This could be a very long memory cycle with some very asymmetric pricing and some pretty big downhill downstream impacts to consumers.
Yes, so I've been in tech. This is my 9th cycle, and as I've been very consistent, there's always too much memory or too little memory. And lest we forget that 3 years ago when we were doing bulls and bears, going through Micron and Samsung of negative gross margins. Think about that. Negative gross margins. And what happened is exactly what you would guess. Cash conservation, they pulled back on CapEx big time. And then AI happened. And there's a couple things here. So first of all, each wafer of HBM, you require about 4x the wafers to match the same wafers of, let's say, standard DRAM like DDR5 or DDR4. And so you have that issue, and that pulls away on other memory. And then if you look at the cascade of profitability, you have hyperscalers who literally will pay anything and any price to get this, because they're making the most margin at this point. And then you go to the opposite effect, which is the least amount of margin, which is on the PC side. So the last people to get the memory will be the PC folks, because not only do they not have the margin, but they also, I mean, they definitely have the volume, but they can't afford to pay 5x, 6x, 10x like the hyperscalers can and will be. The good news is that the memory makers are not being stupid. They realize that this is not forever. If they don't give memory to people who make smartphones, who make Windows PCs, then those markets will die. They're not getting everything they want or the prices that they want, and the PC makers are reacting as you would expect, eliminating low-end CPU offerings. They're raising prices. And they're defeaturing other elements like display technology. If it keeps going at this rate, Daniel, there's nothing on a spreadsheet that I've seen that says we'll be out of this by 2030, right? You and I caught up with Sanjay from Micron at Davos, and he was speaking from his point of view. He felt pretty comfortable second half 2027. He doesn't represent Samsung and Hynix. And also, if you factor in, what could be the gigantic, like truly, if you do believe in the bull case for AI, which I know you do, Daniel, you remind everybody every day on X about that.
Not every day. It's like a weekly reminder.
We're not going to be we're not going to be out of this mess. Another factor is where you're seeing non-HBM designs, right, that use, let's say, LPDDR instead. It still uses memory. And I'm convinced that part of this disaggregation of the AI workflow between pre-fill and decode and even training, you don't need HBM for decode. You definitely need it for training. And you need it for refill. So, anyways, we will see, baby.
Well, you heard me talking about the India-based BPOs and SIs. It looks like they're not all, they're not taking it laying down. They're doing some things to try to increase relevance and to scale the businesses and pivot with AI. And I saw a note this week, and I know you've worked closely, Infosys, partnering with Anthropic to build enterprise grade AI agents. What is Infosys doing, and is this a repositioning? What's the move here?
So I would say overall, Daniel, I've been super disappointed at the reaction of the GSIs, and I'm just talking in aggregate. And the scale of the amount of employees. I mean, Accenture alone has almost 900,000 employees. Okay, think about this. And they are doing heavy lifting of anywhere from, SAP consolidation to connecting the front end to the back end, as I always like to say, basically any major heavy lift, mainframe modernization projects, any type of modernization project that we've seen for the last 20 years has traditionally been done. And what I would have expected, Daniel, is that all of these companies would have become the master of agent creation. Who knows SAP consolidation better than a GSI? Nobody does, right? And typically you'll spend $3 million on $3 million for a study that tells you what you need to do. It identifies where the data, who the people, what the applications that touch it. That's $3 million right there. It takes 6 months. And you haven't even done the 10 or 20, 30, 40, $50 million consolidation on top. So with that said, I know I'm boring you, Daniel. I would have expected
You are.
I would have expected them to become the absolute master of agents to get their people to do this all automatically. And then they didn't. Some of them tried and they failed. Okay. So this to me seems like a very pragmatic view. I mean, heck, you and I are at least this week bullish on Claude Cowork and the agent work that they do and how they actually help get work done. Maybe we'll hate them next month and somebody else will be better. But this is a very pragmatic take, a focus on clear ROI, sovereign readiness as a differentiator. So yeah, I'm glad to see it, and I want to learn. I want to learn more about it. Infosys isn't pretending that they can do it themselves.
Yeah, this was a bit of a show me moment for a lot of these companies. They're making this pivot. They're adding value.
A what moment?
Show me.
Oh, sorry, that said Shelby. I'm like, did I not read that book? A Shelby book?
A Shelby moment. Show me moment. It's a show me moment, meaning like there's a lot of paint the town with agentic narrative, and then there's the we're adding value in helping companies do this. And it's not a trivial task to take if you're building a zero to today business, you can be totally agentic quickly.
Yeah.
But if you have like legacy systems and data sitting inside of different, it is not trivial to get that data exposed to AI and then have the agents working with quote unquote agency to do things and be sure it's doing it correctly. Like that's real work. And so there is a big market. And I mean, there's a lot of these open companies like these Sierras and others that are kind of saying we're open platform agent framework technology companies. The Sierra's the one that the former Salesforce CEO, forgetting his name, he'll hate that. But the bottom line is I still think there's a layer for humans to fix and make this stuff work and verify and validate. In time, though, it is the 900,000 employees, I just don't see it. I just don't see how that works. It's gonna be really interesting to see how that works long term. Because everything, even infrastructure is code. A lot of the work was standing infrastructure up. You're seeing so much of that stuff being automated. So I think it's going to be lean and mean, but I think these are really important pivots. They'll be fun to watch.
Had an interesting. I think the private GSIs are going to weather the storm better. They can fly under the radar. They can minimize profitability without their stock being destroyed. I mean, sure, the partners aren't going to be happy, but I've seen the private folks, and you know who you are, move a lot quicker. And quite frankly, I had somebody, it was an NDA conversation, I can't tell you who, said that they were going to eliminate 75% of their jobs, right? So I'm not kidding. 75%, Daniel. Think about that.
It's massive. I, I just don't see another way.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you and I are like, we're curmudgeon-y at times, but like I've been like in the lab, everybody's kind of like still like I'm in the lab testing everything that you can do with this stuff. Like every process that like, can you write good research?
Yeah.
Can you do market models? Can you script a podcast? Can you create social like content flows? Like everything that we do, I'm looking at right now and I'm just like beating the crap out of the AI platforms and the agents and the tools. And it's like, it's not, like I said, it's not easy. It's not all easy to do at a level. And I think you're doing the same thing where you're like, I would put this out to the public. But when you're working with, collaborating, iterating, and starting to really build that kind of data corpus that it can see, and you train the voice, like it starts to get to the point where you're like, yeah, this is good. Like, and some of the things I get, I'm like, not just good. I'm like, this is amazing. Like strategy stuff, like that you would, like poor McKinsey, because like some of the stuff, like if you put your data and you get like the you have all the kind of metrics of what you're trying to do, and you want to talk strategy with Claude, it's like it's really good. it's really thoughtful.
Did you see the saw a great plugin on Claude plugin for PowerPoint that somebody said refactor this like a McKinsey presentation. It went through between McKinsey, BCG, but McKinsey's I don't know, moving down or up, down the food chain or up the food chain, and they're doing a lot of work that Gartner would normally do now in making big technological recommendations. So God, the Gartner stock is just getting pummeled. It's crazy. That and Forrester, tough.
All right. Speaking of tough, you want to battle? You want to wage war with me?
I will. I mean, I got to give you got to win on something, buddy.
All right, you give me a shot. Let's talk about we're gonna go in a flip here, and today we're gonna basically talk about there seems to be two big pivots. It's model leadership, or it's infrastructure AI factory leadership, Pat. So the question is, the companies that are chasing the best model versus the companies that are chasing the best infrastructure. So let me say it in another way. Is it all about locking in AI factories, or is model quality the most important in 2026? Let's see who believes infrastructure over models, and let's have it out.
Look at you, the hardware guy.
Well, you know me. I've always been a hardware guy.
Oh my gosh, you were the biggest software guy when I met you.
Deep down hardware guy. Look, I don't even think this is going to take me very long. Models are table stakes right now. It is, every day there's a new model. Some are open source. It's China, it's the US, it's Claude, it's OpenAI, it's Gemini Advanced Pro 3.1 plus sidebar kick double bench press 325er. And every day the one new model does something better than another, and we're all chasing revenue. Folks like us, I'm subscribing today. Oh, Perplexity is great. Oh, Google's great. I'm moving over to Claude today. Models themselves don't ensure a long-term moat. This is why Sam Altman was chasing trillions of dollars to build a fab network, because he knew, even as the model guy in the company that broke this space open, that if they don't have enough infrastructure, that's why he's spending trillions on infrastructure, wanted to spend more trillions on fabs, because he knows got to have the infrastructure in place. So the smartest companies have actually been the ones that have been somewhat on the sidelines in terms of fighting the model battle, and they've been making sure that they have enough infrastructure. And why does Mark Zuckerberg want to have more infrastructure? Why does Satya Nadella want more infrastructure? It's because it gives them the ultimate flexibility. The future will be all about having the flexibility, having enough compute to basically be able to pivot and move as quickly as the technological transformations underneath are taking place. If you don't have enough compute, even if you have the best model today, that will not be the best model tomorrow. All these guys know it. So a lot of people criticize Zuck when he spent all that money on Superintelligence Lab and then didn't roll out the next Llama fast enough. And then they said China's taking over the open source. But I think they've figured out they can wait on building the models. What they can't wait is on building out enough infrastructure. So this is very simple, Pat. The gigawatts are going to be the giga get of the giga future, of the giga win of this giga cycle. Don't have enough infra. Doesn't matter what your models do today. Someone will outdo you tomorrow.
I mean, Daniel, you forgot about the Giga Chads, which
I am the giga
very,
Chad.
very disappointed about. No, I mean, listen, in this simulated debate, you're basically saying that software quality doesn't matter, right? That I can put out any hardware that I want and it just doesn't matter. I mean, how many times have we discussed that it's the combination of the software and the hardware that makes the magic happen? And whether that's an Apple iPhone, a PC, and oh, by the way, the outcomes, and that's what actually matters in this world is outcomes, not the size of your infrastructure. And I mean, my gosh, we saw this with DeepSeek. I mean, DeepSeek and what it could do with limited infrastructure. I mean, you get a finely tuned model, it can use 10% the infrastructure, particularly on the inference side, to do what you need to do, and that's all driven by the model. Let's look at the industry today. Let's look at Google as an example. Google will come out with a new model, and then they'll come out with a flash model. A flash model is an optimized version of the model that came out maybe a month before and was all based on model improvements. And typically what we see, because the pricing sometimes comes down 90% between the standard model and the flash model. So I think I would much rather put my money into the best optimization. Don't get me wrong, there is a certain level of infrastructure that's required to do a certain task. I think I look at the other, who has the most infrastructure right now with GPUs? It's XAI. Who do you know that's super impressed by the XAI model out there? Like, who's using it? Who's talking about it? I mean, I
The
know
richest man in the world loves it.
true. It's not really doing much anything for productivity. It's doing a very good job when I'm trying to figure out what the heck somebody is tweeting about. Like, what is this nonsense? I think it's amazing at that. It seems to do political ideology in a fair way. It's not biased on one side or the other, but it's like nobody's using it, and they've got the most hardware, and that's probably the best example out there that makes sense. And I also think what's happening is not just the model; it's also about the tools, the plugins, the fine tuning, and how it's locked in to solve a specific problem. Like, it's not just Claude, the Autonobot that sits there, right? You've got Claude for PowerPoint, you've got Claude for Excel, you've got Claude Code, you've got all these different variations that are basically a golf club bag. You pull out the club you need to do that. That's really delivered by the software. So I rest my case. Once again, I have won the debate. Thank you for playing.
That was terrible. You got smoked. It's fine. You didn't, it wasn't even a fair fight. So, not a fair, it was a fair fight because it was such a one-sided answer. And I could end this whole thing by just tweeting out that Pat's not a hardware guy. I could really break you. I could be like, Pat just said infrastructure doesn't matter.
Nobody would believe that.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I could, if I tweeted, it would be true. And I put a rocket afterwards, and that would be it. Hey, if it works well enough, you might put a rocket at the end of some of your tweets soon. I can see it happening.
The only reason I don't is because you do. It's kind of like my brother.
Ruined it. I ruined it for you.
My brother was an engineer, and therefore I wasn't. Not that I could have been an engineer, but it's like, no, my brother's an engineer. But I do appreciate you pulling back on the bubble bear tweets. I do. I almost had to mute you. Almost.
Well, I think I won the debate. Like I stood my ground until when AI started to eat everything, you came to the realization that it can't be both. So I was right. I had to stay the course until I was done being right. And so, and by the way, you can't really get anyone to look at your stuff if you don't inflame some people. So I had to inflame all the bubble bears, including Pat Moorhead, who thinks that AI is a bubble. He's an anti-infrastructure bubble guy. Yeah. How did this happen? How did we get here?
Bald. Look at that. By the way, no minoxidil, none of that, nothing.
Your hair looks good.
Some days it's kind of looking like a como, or I don't know if it's my increased testosterone that's kind of eating away
DHT.
at that.
DHT.
I don't know what's doing it, but I feel like I am losing hair. Then look at my brother, who's like completely bald on top. My dad didn't even know he was bald because he was bald in the back until somebody told him one day.
Because he's tall and bald, but never looked in the mirror.
Exactly.
I get told sometimes I'm bald. Like people that want to be like shit posting me, and they're like, you're bald. I'm like, no shit. It's like
Dumb.
okay. Yeah, I know. I mean, anyways, all right. Well, that was a good debate. That was fun. It was fun. It's always fun. Pat, let's hammer out. There's some earnings this week, so let's hit it. Let's hit bulls and bears. I'm bearish on your hair, by the way.
What?
I'm bullish on the there's no bubble, but I'm bearish on your hair. I'm bearish on the thickness of your hair.
Okay. All good.
All right. So let's talk first some earnings, Pat. Palo Alto Networks reported. How'd they do?
All right. Palo Alto, we had a triple beat, and the market rewarded them with an 8% cut in share price. It was all about margins and the cost narratives and the guide. So pretty straightforward, right? Market's punishing them for margin uncertainty due to integration costs, but they're not questioning the demand. I do think the CyberArk acquisition was pretty good, and I think they did a decent case justifying why it was good for them. I think, Palo Alto is doing a decent job becoming a kind of a one-stop shop. It's tough to compete with people like Cisco, though, in this, who is kind of their arch enemy on there. There were some streets not impressed. JP Morgan lowered price target, but they kept them overweight. A lot of compression there. So the question is, can Palo Alto Networks maintain the margin execution at the same time they're absorbing all of these acquisition costs at a time where you don't want to be looked at as a software play? And this is the conundrum that they're in. Is Palo Alto an AI play? Are they a software play? Or are they both?
Or a cyber play.
Yeah.
But what is true is, as we bring agents online, every agent is a badgeless, faceless, nameless reckoning in terms of cyber risk. We know that from our Claude bot, Molt bot, OpenAI bot, seeing while we are proliferating and investing and digesting and implementing tech quickly, there's a ton of risk that's being created as we scale out all this tech. That's going to open doors. I think cyber theme actually catches somewhat of a tailwind. I went on CNBC and talked about this with Palo Alto. I think that the super platform that Nikesh Arora is building is going to do well, because people are going to struggle with the fragmented space that is cyber. It's always been a struggle. You go to RSA, the number of vendors, there's so many. The consolidation layer has to take place. Can Palo Alto win? You mentioned Cisco, Google with Wiz. I mean, the consolidation is happening. It's going to be who can consolidate best, has the broadest solution, and can kind of overlay this AI, this AI transformation that's going on. But Palo Alto has one of the most complete security portfolios in the industry. It's made a lot of good acquisitions. Its business did perform better than the two individual with CyberArk and Palo Alto was expected, but not as good as maybe the synergies that some were hoping they would get straight out the gate. I'm still optimistic that cyber is one of the parts of the industry that can do really well throughout this, because I still think we always underestimate the amount we need to invest in cyber. And if AI is as transformative as we think it is, we're going to need to spend more there to make that happen. So let's talk a little bit about, analog devices. We don't talk about these guys too often. We'll just kind of do a quick hit here. Some of these industrial and data center companion companies, and these ones that have specialty chips, maybe leading edge, they all seem to be doing really well, Pat. They're all having a bit of a renaissance after a few tough years. So they basically came out, they forecasted second quarter above estimates. They're saying their demand for industrial, data center are both outsized. Their AI is a tailwind for them. And like I said, they've been a bit underperforming some of the more leading edge parts of the market. So, there's not a lot here in this one, Pat, but, we talked about this with Lattice. We've had this with like Coherent, like these companies that are kind of participating in the AI boom that haven't necessarily been the front runners. You're starting to see a nice catch up. That's pulled the stocks forward. That's also kind of broadened out the chip space. And a lot of these companies are, they have critical components that have to go into a lot of these big systems that are being deployed.
Yeah, I mean, they're all about power, right? And the data center is not all about power, but
a lot about power. They're a lot about power.
Yeah. Well, hey, last night in the dinner, somebody asked me, a chip CEO asked me what I'm most excited about, and beyond the personal stuff, I talked about power.
But didn't you say like you're most excited about Birkin bags full of cash or something?
I may have said something similar to that. That's what I need. But
nobody would believe you would say that, Pat. You're way too experienced and polished to come out like that. And we may have been at the same dinner. We may have eaten the same meal.
We may have sat across from each other.
And we may have played footsie.
I don't know. We weren't allowed to, we couldn't hold hands. That would have been awkward. So instead we just did the footsie thing. Anyways, let's move on. Power. Yes. Anytime there's power on the chip, power on the card, power on the main board, power in the rack, power across the racks, power to power conditioning of the fleet, connection to the grid, about 17 different places you can add value. Now, in the end, these folks are, primarily an edge company and what they do, but they did pretty well. I mean, unlike a lot of the other triple beats, they were up 8% and did pretty well.
Yeah, I think there's the catch up. The companies that have not run, that were beat up for a long time, that are starting to outperform are getting a tailwind, where the ones that have been outperforming are getting crushed. They can't do enough. So let's hit real quick Cadence, Pat, another really important player. I think they had some news this week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had at least a double beat, and then forecast was in line, up 4%. I think this is a class of players that I think will be power players in 4 or 5 years. And it's not that they're not power players today; they are. But as more people design and develop their own chips and their own infrastructure, and platforms go more vertical, companies like Cadence and Synopsys as a category get a lot more important. And you really got to, kind of balance that against the two fiefdoms, the China and the US or Americas or Western fiefdoms, because I think Cadence would be able to drive a lot more business in China if we didn't restrict them. So what makes it challenging is a lot of the tools that you can use to do a low end power regulator are the same tools that you can use to make a GPU or an accelerator. So it's not like, oh, I can sell them detuned EDA tools out there. So yeah, I mean, it was the backlog that got everybody excited here. And I really need to drill in on why a company like this would actually have backlog like it has. There's probably implementation timing that goes into it, but to have an $8 billion backlog is I can't fully explain that.
Yeah, I don't have that either. So that might be worth us coming back to. Let's hit because there's a few more here, Pat. Let's keep going. An interesting one, as SaaS Mageddon or SaaS apocalypse continues. There's no better vote of confidence is when the CEOs of the companies and the executives stop selling their own stock into what's considered a downturn. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't understand is that most stock sales from executives are well planned in advance. Usually, it's anywhere from a quarter to several quarters, and this is a tends to be a large part of how these people get paid. Like you notice a lot of them, they're cash comp. People always think CEOs are making a lot of money, and they are, but a lot of the money they make is stock. And so they get grants, they get rewards. Many times those rewards were made years in the past for performance, and then they sell some of the shares over time. But when you're in the sort of the middle of the fire, one of the worst things you can do is sell your stocks. It doesn't really matter when you planned it and how far in advance you planned it. So it was a positive, I think, catalyst for ServiceNow this week when Bill McDermott and a number of other executives at ServiceNow decided to cancel their previous planned stock sales. And actually, McDermott announced that he's going to purchase another $3 million in his own stock, which, again, some people are like, that's not that much, but $3 million purchase is a lot. Because again, he's not only not taking cash out, now he's putting his cash back in. So I think it's a good vote of confidence, but I think this is one of those kinds of things we need to see from more and more of these CEOs. If they truly believe that their product is stable, that their disruption is not real, and that their business growth is going to continue, there's no better way to show the street that you're confident in your future than putting your money where your mouth is. So, it's a, this is a moment, Pat. You got to show people you're willing to invest. And I think it was a good move.
Yeah, it's funny. I do like. It's funny. I think it does show the confidence, but is it also, hey, I'm going to cancel these sales agreements because I'm not going to make any money? Is that what it's about? Or, now that I think about it, it's probably I think it's a confidence play, right? We should do an hour-long show on SaaS apocalypse.
Shit.
I think that would be interesting. I think that's what people want to hear from us, and maybe we even do a deep dive on memory. I think that'd be fun. What else we got, Daniel?
Dell, Pat. It saw 4.1% comeback. I guess Lenovo had flagged some memory issues, and Dell sharply sold off. But I think you and I have had some great conversations over the year with folks at Dell. And if there's anyone that does any company that does supply chain well, it rhymes with doing supply chain well. It's a company that's called Dell. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Lenovo came out with earnings, Dell stock went down 9%. And then I think reality set in that looked at the percentage of revenue that comes from PCs versus infrastructure. And that's why the Dell snapped back 4%. I think both Lenovo and Dell have very good supply chains, as evidenced by what happened during the pandemic. I do think that Dell probably favors on the memory side long-term agreements, and I think that it should give Dell a pricing and availability advantage over its biggest competitors over the long term, right? That evens out with an LTA, and you pay the price on the opposite side of an LTA where you might be spending a little bit more when memory prices are low compared to the folks who don't have or who buy more on the spot market to do that. But if you were a company that was buying on the spot market, you were getting absolutely wrecked. Right now, I am doing a bit of research trying to figure out who is going to get wrecked and why. What I do feel comfortable with talking about is that Dell will be one of the vendors, if not the vendor, who will be on top related to memory.
All right. You kind of got my take. This is all about smart planning, and the companies that have the best planning and have the best supply chains will win. The companies that underplanned or did a lot of spot pricing to try to defer costs and expenses are going to get hammered. and hammered not just on paying too much, maybe not being able to get stuff at all. that's an even worse scenario right now. All right, one last note before we take off here, Pat, is Marvell got a strong reiteration of a buy. A number of people are we haven't talked about Marvell a lot. Broadcom gets a lot of attention, NVIDIA, AMD, but Marvell is still there churning away, helping to build some of the most advanced AI chips. And also, when we went to their analyst day, really doing a lot of the pulling together the networking, scale up, scale out, scale across. They've got one of the broadest and biggest portfolios. And while, there's been less focus on just XPUs lately and who's winning which XPU, as we've started to see the infrastructure at the chip level scaling out to the whole rack level. But there's a lot of Marvell content in a lot of these racks, isn't there? It's not surprising that they would be reiterated as a buyer, that the market would be looking at it positively, as it's got a lot of upside there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job. I mean, scale up, scale out, scale across data centers, across fleets, and even the speed of what does scale up really mean? Like, if you can do scale out at the speed of scale up, and you're limiting the amount of hops, then you're doing great. So I'm looking forward to their earnings, getting kind of caught up on the, what's the right word? Kind of narrowing the rumor mill and getting down to brass tacks. I'm looking forward to that.
Fun. So much going on. Hey, Pat, guess what's next week?
Gosh, somebody having earnings, it's NVIDIA earnings week, right? Or no, it's HP earnings week.
Yes, and NVIDIA earnings week. And as we all know, it's a national holiday. It's one that you plan and you travel around. Pat will probably be on TV 10 or 20 times that day.
Don't rub it in my face that you're a TV boy. Okay.
Oh,
don't do that.
Hey, I carried the books around to get your laptop at the right level for the last NVIDIA earnings. I'm here for you.
I think you may have snaked my position on a certain show. We're gonna have to have a talk about that.
I don't think that show exists anymore.
Same name. Same name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Same name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think these shows are these media companies are just constant flux, man. I'm telling you, the hosts, the shows, the moderators, but you know what they always get is good insights from Pat and Dan. More from Pat, but they get rocket ships, size, and bubble bears from me. So I'm here for y'all. Pat, if he ever mutes me, that's gonna be the best day ever, because then he doesn't see all my great stuff.
Bubble bears. I love that.
All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate you so much. To all you bubble bears out there watching the show, you're a clown. Sorry, you're all clowns. But everyone else, we love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you subscribing and being part of our community. 6-5 out for this week. We'll see you all soon.